Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Kids Church. Last week, we continued the story of Jacob. Rebekah and Jacob tricked Isaac into blessing Jacob. The promise for Abraham and Isaac also became the promises for Jacob. At Bethel, where Jacob had a dream, God showed that his plan was to continue the covenant through Jacob's family, and eventually a whole nation, leading to the birth of Jesus. Last week, we had 2 challenges. The first challenge was about dressing up, just like Jacob dressed up like Esau. If you remember that Jacob put his head on a rock before he had the dream. So the second challenge is about ordering your family's pillows from hardest to softest. Let's see what you came up with.
Made us, he knew we'd run from him and try to hide our sin, but he wanted to save us. His own were on his heart before he made the stars. Oh, no one is good, not even one. God can make us stars, God can make us sons. Jesus paid the price when he offered up his life, so we could be part of God's big family. When the Father draws us, it's like a magnet's pull. He's irresistible. When the Spirit calls us, he brings the dead to life. He gives the blind new eyes. Oh, no one is good, not even.
Hi everyone and welcome to Kids Church.
Good morning, so great you could join us again.
Yes, it's great that we can all be together, even though we're not in a building together. You know, we're still God's church and we're still all together, and that's really good that we can still be doing that.
How about we pray, Rob?
I think we'll pray. Dear God, we thank you that we can be all together this morning. We thank you that you speak to us through your Bible. Help us to listen and learn and to know you better because of what we learn. Amen.
Amen. Now, Rob, this term we've been looking at, in the beginning sort of part of the Bible in Genesis. What have we been learning about?
I think there was some really groovy dancing in there and something about promises, was there?
Yeah, something along the lines. I don't know about the dancing, but there was. We were talking about promises. Do you remember what the first promise was?
The first promise, there was going to be as many people as there were stars.
That's right.
Lots of people.
Yeah.
So Abraham was going to have a big family.
He was. And he was promised then also that he was going to have a land for that family. There was going to be a place for them.
So they've got a people, we've got a place. The other thing I think there was going to be a blessing, that these people were going to be a blessing to the whole world, that God was going to do something amazing through these people.
That's right. That's right. And we'll keep unfolding that as we continue going through the gospel project that we've been studying.
I'm looking forward to hearing what today's story is going to be about. But you know what? One of the best ways to remember, I find, is to sing and to do actions. So we want to help you remember that God always keeps his promises. Why don't you join us and dance around and sing with us?
Absolutely.
Oh God, he always keeps his promises. He said the sons of Abraham would be more than the grains of sand, and so his family grew underneath the Pharaoh's rule. Oh God, he always keeps his promises. He said the blood upon the door would keep the Israelites secure, and so he stayed his hand and led them to the promised land. And God is good and true. He cannot lie to me and you. You can be sure of this. God always keeps his promises. obeyed him. We broke every one he made, but when we ran from him, God said he'd take care of the sin. Our God is good and true. He cannot lie to me and you. You can be sure of this. God always keeps his promises. Oh God, he always keeps his promises. He said his son would set us free. Through his death on Calvary, he suffered in our place. And then he rose up from the grave. Our God is good and true. He cannot lie to me and you. You can be sure of this. God always keeps his promises. Our God is good and true. He cannot lie to me and you. You can be sure of this. God always keeps his promises. God always keeps his promises.
As God always keeps his promises. God always keeps his promises because he's faithful.
Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Hebrews chapter 10 verses 23.
Oh, hello, Xander.
Hey, Jock.
How you going, mate?
Exhausted.
Exhausted? You look a bit sweaty. What have you been up to?
I just was out bike riding with Rob.
Oh, really? He's super fit and super strong on a bike, isn't he?
Yeah, he is for an old guy. But once I had his bike, I could beat him any day.
Do you really think?
Yep, I'm confident about it.
Did you have any accidents?
No, I didn't fall off or have any accidents.
Oh, I had someone I went riding with him, but he's a bit of a madman.
Yeah, he is.
What kind of riding did you do?
We started off with single track, which we did some weaving around trees and riding around stones. And then we went to fire trail.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. Did you ride it all on your old bike?
No, I decided to swap with Rob partway through, and his bike was way better.
Oh, it must be a lot easier when you get your bike you like.
Yeah, it is.
And so, was it a long ride?
Yeah, it was fairly long. We rode for about an hour and a half, and with the fire trail, there was a couple of difficulties. Rob said that there'll be 2 hills. So
Really? 2 hills? That sounds a bit tough.
Yep. So we get up the first hill, and there's the second hill, the exact same size, both massive.
Were you able to ride up them?
Yes, I was.
Oh, it must be good to get to the end then of those 2 hills.
But that wasn't the end.
It wasn't at the end.
We get up the second hill, and there's a third hill.
I thought you said Rob said there were only 2.
He said that, but there wasn't.
So there were 3 hills.
No, there wasn't. There was 4.
4 hills?
We get up the third hill, and there's a bigger hill than all of the others, and we finally get up there and finish our ride.
Must have been really good to get to the end.
It was.
I bet you felt like your dad tricked you, telling you only 2 hills when there were 4.
Yeah, I did.
That's a bit rough. You know what? That reminds me of today's Bible story.
Really? Were there mountain bikes?
No, don't be daft. Of course there weren't any mountain bikes. They weren't invented in the Bible times. But, you know how you thought there were 2 hills and there were 4 hills?
Yep.
Well, in this story, Jacob thought he had to work for 7 years to get what he wanted. But when he got to the end of 7 years, he didn't get what he wanted. He had to work for another 7 years. Can you imagine that? 14 years!
Yeah, that's ages. That'd be so difficult.
It would be really hard. But eventually he got what he wanted.
So what did he want?
Well, how about we watch the story and find out?
Well, that was a really great story, wasn't it?
It was certainly interesting. Can you imagine working for 7 years and then having to work for another 14 years to get what you wanted?
It's such a long time, isn't it? Do you know, Rob, sometimes our kids struggle to work for 14 minutes.
Particularly when they were homeschooling.
I know, but it's really helpful to go through with your family and have a look at some of the questions.
Yeah, I had a couple that came out. There was something that happened that was the same last week as this week. There was a trick play. Can you remember what the trick was last week and what the trick was this week? Who played those tricks?
Yep, that's a great question. One question is, imagine how you would feel if you were each of the main characters in today's story. So how would you feel if you were Jacob and Leah and Rachel?
That's interesting. And the other point that we bring out of it is, how do we see God's plan coming about through this, particularly through Leah and through what happened to Leah? How does God make his plan come about?
Because we remember that God always keeps his promises. Now, definitely talk about that with your family, but Rob, today you've got a challenge for
We've
us.
got a super challenge for you today.
Okay, Rob, so tell us about the challenge for this week.
Well, in this week's story, there was a trick played. So
Yes.
I thought I might play a trick.
Okay.
I might do a magic trick.
Do you really think you're going to be able to trick me, Rob?
Yes, but first of all,
Okay.
I'm going to need my magic 8 ball. Have you seen it anywhere?
No.
There it is. I found my magic 8 ball.
Oh, Rob. I hope that's not the trick.
No, that's not my
Good.
trick. I'm
Okay.
going to take my magic 8 ball
Yep.
and I'm going to put it under one of these cups here.
Okay.
Okay, Tanya, you tell me
Yep. So I'm
which
looking.
which cup has my magic 8 ball.
Okay, easy done. I'm going to choose that cup.
Obviously, because it was rolling around at the end there, you got it right.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, so our challenge this week.
Okay, so our challenge this week is, because there's lots of tricks been happening last week and tricks happening this week, we'd like you to see if you can play a trick on your family and trick someone in your family.
You might be able to just do something like I've done and play that kind of magic trick where you put a ball under a cup, or a card trick. But send us in a picture or some details of the trick you played of your family.
Absolutely, or whether you are able to trick anyone in your family or not.
But I've got one last thing I want to do with you.
Okay.
I'm going to take my magic 8 ball and put it back under the cup.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's under the middle
It's
cup.
under the middle cup. Okay.
Everyone's got to be watching.
Everyone at home watching this. Okay. Whoa, that's not going to work. Okay. Now, I want you at home to guess which cup it's under. Is it under cup number 1? Is it under cup number 2? Or is it under cup number 3? Send in your answers this week. We'd love to hear what you think.
That's right. So remember, your challenge is to try and trick someone in your family and then tell us what number the ball is under our cups, and we'll reveal it next week.
Okay, it's great that you could join us this week. We'll see you next week.
See you later, guys.